think that the circumstances of my life are at least my childhood, are much like the sort of cliche narrative that you hear a lot about child stars. But I don't talk about it too much because I don't ever want to be perceived as a victim of it. I am not, and have never been, and never will be, a victim of any circumstance that I am in. I don't wear victimhood on my shoulder. I don't like to act like I am my wounds and to repeatedly be reminded of my wounds. What happened in my youth happened and carved me and forged me into the person I am today.
For better and for worse, right?
For better. For purely better. Even through pain. We trade trauma for wisdom. That's what we do as humans. When we go through heavy experiences, it deepens our eyes. You know, I think for me, the reason I haven't really talked about it too much in the past is because, one, the media has a way of sensationalizing scars and victimhood like this is a person's character, and in very many ways it is. But they don't talk about the strength that is the byproduct of pain. They talk about the pain, which is useless. Like it all it does is perpetuate the past, which I think is or a pain that existed in the past, rather than going, my God, look how well he's done for himself, even though he's had such a tough upbringing. You know, I think Oprah is another wonderful example of this, where her story, her origin tale, so to speak, is very well known. And look at what a beautiful example of success that she's become over time. You know, that to me is the most beautiful way that I think media can sensationalize a story of pain. But I find that it's oftentimes not. And I also feel like we're in a climate right now that really encourages people to talk about the victimization of pain more than they do about the triumph over it, the strength that comes as a byproduct of that pain. And so that's mainly why I don't talk about it too much, because I don't want to be that guy. You know, I don't want to be that guy that's like, owie, all the time. No, man, you're given these lessons in your life so that you can triumph over them and use the traits that you've acquired from those lessons over time to carve out who you are.
One of the things I've mulled over from speaking to people on this podcast is about this idea that trauma you describe, if it ever goes away, you know,
should it? Ask yourself that.
It's a good question. It probably, I have to say, it probably shouldn't, because as you asserted earlier on, it's a lesson that you learned so that you could deal with your environment or circumstance. And just like the lesson I learned of not putting my hand into fire, I'm not going to unlearn that at 30.
No.
There's no therapy that could help me.
Yeah, of course. And unfortunately, I'm speaking for myself here. I don't know about you, but I'm a dumbass that needs to learn by his own mistakes. I mean, I can watch my father go, hey, man, you need to drink water at this watering hole, but you can't drag me there and make me drink. I have to make mistakes in order to learn from my mistakes. And a lot of my friends are very similar. But I don't think those lessons should end.
Like I said about my validation thing sticking around with me, what stuck around with you?
The workaholism is definitely stuck with me. I need validation a lot. I think that's a pretty common thing for most artists just to have. But I am the byproduct of moments of incredible narcissism and moments of severe self-loathing. And right in the middle is when I do my best work. But a lot of that operation and the fluctuation between those two things is determined by people going, oh, damn.
What if they invalidate?
What if they say, God damn, you suck? I spiral, of course, but I don't let it hang on me. I try not to let it hang on me.
What does a spiral look like?
Man, maybe I should just run away and not do this and, get some chickens and raise, get some eggs and live off the grid and whatever it is. It also manifests as the inability to sort of say your desires out loud for fear of looking like a fool. I think LA does that too, because I think vulnerability is just something that we don't really encourage here in Los Angeles.
Why is that?
Because it's not cool, but it's not cool to Angelenos because someone that is cool hasn't said it like that before. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of imposter syndrome in Los Angeles. And so, you know, authenticity and vulnerability are not really encouraged traits.
Before you arrived, I was saying to my team, I was like, I watch all these interviews with people like yourself from LA, that are stars, actors, and I go, no one's ever asked them an interesting question, it seems. Like, genuinely, that's how, before you walked in, this is what I was saying. I was like, because you know, Lucy Hale was the same. She goes, oh, this is the first time I've had a deep conversation. And I'm like, why? And then I mimicked what interviewers are like. I was like, hey, where'd you get your shoes?
Yeah.
And then you're like,
so can you speak to your twin in your mind? Yeah, of course.
Like, who the fuck wants to talk about that? Do people actually, you know?
Yeah. I mean, because it's safe.
Yeah, right.
Because it's a safe thing. You know, this is why I love the podcast space, is because the podcast space creates
nuance.
Yeah, nuance and context. It gives you the whole context right there, which is something that a lot of people, you know, in interview settings or otherwise are completely devoid of. When you're selling a publication, when you're selling an interview with someone on paper, you don't really get the context. Oh, well, the context was it was pouring rain outside for the last blah, 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 and you arrived to the studio and you got to sit down and have a tete-a-tete, and we talked about having similar birthdays, and we talked about Botswana beforehand, and blah, 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 blah. You know, you get the context, you get the connection, which I think is gorgeous. And I think it also creates a really beautiful way to discover the honest humanity and opinion of people. Because we're, you know, entertainment media, it's sensational. We're only going to sell the worst person in the world and the best person in the world. We're not going to sell the humans in between, you know, and most of us fit within this kind of gray morality that doesn't really, you know, not all of us are these fucking outliers that are like these really firm, radical fucking people that are saying these radicalized things in order to preach to the sensationalism of the internet. Most of us have these kind of moderate places that we sit. So I think the podcast space is fucking awesome for that, man. You really get to sit and connect to people and have a conversation. And for people that are interested, they fucking listen. It's great.